Looks like we've got everybody here. I'm Commissioner Leo Prigge from Butte, and I'm the commission chair, and I will call the meeting to order. The first order of business is to establish a forum among commissioners. I'll start to my left here. Here. Mr. Morris. Here. Commissioner Harbaugh.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor.
Here.
Okay, all five. We have a forum. We'll do a introduction of the lottery directors sitting at the table here, starting with Director Costigan.
Brian Costigan, Montana Lottery.
Bob Brown, Lottery.
Don Harris, Legal Counsel, Department of Admin.
Phil Charpentier, IT Services Director, Montana Lottery.
Armin Sargent, Finance Director, Montana Lottery.
Ann Charpentier, Marketing and Sales Director, Montana Lottery.
Okay. All right. The next section here on the agenda here is an opportunity for public comment. I think we have some public comment in the room. Well.
Thank you for allowing me to come to speak to you and to do this early in your meeting. So I'm Terry Falk. I'm representative from House District 10 in Kalispell, Montana. And my motivation to come here today is to represent the people, which is obviously why I was elected. This session, procurement and RFP processes and maybe even history of some things that have happened has been a hot topic in the legislature. Investigations are ongoing about these sorts of things, and I'm personally very involved in it. But I thought it would be appropriate, not because of that, but also the lottery budget falls into Section A subcommittee of appropriations. So therefore, Section A, I'm chair of that subcommittee. So we review the budget, and in the first meeting for the budget went very well. We were given a mission statement, and the mission statement says the mission of the Montana Lottery is to maximize the transfer of its net revenue to the state's general fund. And I'm not telling you anything you don't know, and to the Montana STEM Scholarship Program, providing products that meet expectations of consumers while adhering to the highest standards of security and integrity, which is critical to maintaining public confidence in the agency and its products. And I don't want to be preachy, but this I think is relevant. And I know you already know this, but trust between government officials and the public is essential. We must believe that the government is using their authority for personal gain or acting against the public's best interests. And one principle that often gets emphasized for public officials is the need to avoid even the appearance of evil and be above reproach and not exploit laws to provide sweetheart deals. And again, I know you know that, but I just want to preface that because that's where I'm coming from. So after we had the budget meeting, it came to my attention that there was a board meeting here in December. And there were some things that happened there that came as somewhat of a surprise to several board members. I watched the video, and there was general dissatisfaction among people in my committee. By the way, the committee consists of 8 people, the Section 8 subcommittee. We were in 100% agreement on the concerns about this particular issue that I'm about to talk about, having to do with procurement and RFP. So we found that we watched the video and we found general dissatisfaction with that. It's obviously my opinion. I think any average taxpayer would say that this process needs to be above board, that no sweetheart deals, and to consider the Montana taxpayer, which is part of the mission statement. And it came into, we had some hearings then to discuss with Director Brown and the Director of Department Administration to try to discuss what happened, why it happened, and what is the process from here. We found that they struggled to come up with direct black and white answers. The consideration was, well, maybe this needs to be not put out to competitive bid. Perhaps maybe that would be what's best. And we discussed that at some length. And I guess the sum total of what I discovered and the committee discovered, and by the way, again, we were 100% agreement. If this is such a great idea that to not do the RFP, then why was the process done outside the commission, the board commission? And why was the board left to be surprised at the December meeting? I didn't understand what the need was for surprising the commission, because the commission clearly made a directive, which is their prerogative and you know, statutory power to explore the RFP process. I mean, you guys know, you were here in September. It was very clear from that September meeting what was going to happen, and then 3 months went by, and it was changed. And so, I guess I feel pretty strongly about this. I feel like this is something that needs to be looked at. I feel like I'm glad the media is here. I feel like the people need to understand that there is an RFP process, there is a procurement policy at the state, and this needs to be followed. We felt so strongly about the need for this RFP process that we actually put it into the budget, the House Bill 2 budget, a specific language, and I will read the language to you so you have that for your benefit. So the language attached to the lottery budget reads like this. If the Montana Lottery Division does not conduct a request for proposal to obtain its contract for gambling services, the division's proprietary authority will be reduced by $500,000 in both fiscal years of the 27 biennium. We also talked to the Legislative Audit Division, and they agreed to this language, that the Audit Division will conduct a performance audit in the 27 biennium of the Montana Lottery contract procurement process. So that's my thoughts. I wanted to make that aware to you. I know that there's been a letter, and I know you know this too, from Scientific Gains. They're wanting to see this be more open to the public. I understand there's a letter of intent. It would be my statement as a representative of the people that should be a public document, that the people should understand what they are looking at, what you're dealing with, so that they believe that this process is above reproach. And I think that's a very important part. And again, this legislative session, that's been a really important topic for really good reasons, because there's been a few things that have been done that, and I would say again, I was quoted in the paper to say this, you know, sometimes things might appear legal, but that doesn't mean necessarily ethical. And I just implore you to do the right thing. And finally, House Bill 583 came on the floor yesterday. I guess I'm kind of confused by the purpose of that. The bill sponsor wasn't really able to clear that up. In the fiscal note, it says that they're looking for a fifth meeting per year. I don't know if that's ongoing. I don't know if that's just this year because of the contract renegotiation and impending expiration. I feel like, you know, if you guys feel like you need a fifth meeting, I'm pretty sure you can figure that out yourself. But anyway, so I'm a little confused by that, but that's more anecdotal. So that's the extent of my comments, and I'm happy to take any questions if anybody has.
Representative Falk, I watched the committees that you conducted where you spoke with some Department of Administration and lottery personnel. The Department of Administration director, as I recall, at least 2 times said that the amendment to a bill in 2023 should be reversed. The amendment that allowed the lottery to choose not to go through the RFP process. Do I recall that correctly?
Yes, you do.
So the implication I take from that is she said, even though it was passed into law, it really isn't a good idea, then we should go through the RFP process. Do you-
That's correct, yeah. She indicated that she thought that was a mistake. Her specific attitude described it, I think, was unintentional.
Appreciate it.
And if you don't, yeah, I mean, I'm available. I'm here. This is what I'm doing for the next couple of months. Do you have a question online?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Commissioner Taylor. Recognize. Go ahead, Jenna.
Janet, you are muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I also was chair of the Section 8 subcommittee in the House, and so I've had your job. But my question is, the $100,000 that you would remove going forward, is that what you assume the RFP will cost? $100,000 to cost the people of Montana to put out the RFP?
Thank you, Board and Janet, for the question. No, it isn't tied to any specific procurement or appropriation. And you should know it's $500,000 per year in the next biennium.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Any comment? So from Don, do you have anything to add or questions? Or-
No,
Water
sure,
perspective?
and certainly appreciate the comment. I guess if there was an item coming from it, you have to put it on the next agenda and discuss it then, but, think you all heard the comment. And internalize that in however way you wish.
Okay.
May I be
Thank you.
excused to go back to session? Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Okay, well. Any other, yeah, good talk. Any other public comment in the room or online?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. My name is Shauna Helfert, HELFERT, and I represent the Gaming Industry Association. That association, my members comprise of those that manufacture the video gaming machines, as well as job operators and casino establishments that often have many of your machines there. And we just want to encourage the board to do the transparent process and go out for an RFP. And I'd be happy for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members, I've been in the Capitol way too long. With Montana Coin Machine Operators Association, and like Shauna, my association, although we don't have the casinos as our members, we do have the route operators and all the manufacturers. Some of those manufacturers also, as many of you are aware, do lottery in other states. And we also would encourage you to look at an RFP and a transparent process.
Are you online still or Mike?
Seeing no hands raised.
Okay, appreciate that. And then as we move along here, if anybody has public comment to get through this discussion, please raise your hand or speak up. The next business that we move on to is the contract update, and I'm gonna turn it over to Don Harris here, Chief Legal Counsel for the Lottery and the Department of Administration, and he'll give us an overview of where we stand on everything.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as we said in December and was outlined in the memorandum that was distributed with the agenda for this meeting, we did the due diligence that we were wanting to do on the incumbent's offer, negotiate with them, and came up with a letter of intent, which is a non-binding framework through which you could very quickly get to a final agreement outlining the terms and conditions that would be necessary to renew an agreement with the incumbent for 7 years. We also, in that time, continue to refine and prepare for an RFP. And I think that whatever you decide today, by the end of the month or sooner, we will be able to either do the RFP or have a final contract with the incumbent vendor. So the memo was written at a pretty high level in terms of what was in the LOI and what is in the RFP. And that's because should you decide that you wanted to do an RFP or continue down the road that you started down in September, we don't want to prejudice that. We want to preserve the integrity of that competitive process. We don't want to be divulging information about either the RFP or the letter of intent that would provide an advantage to one vendor or another. I think as your staff, we feel that we have sufficient information to answer your question and move forward with confidence that we're prepared to implement your direction, whatever that is. And we appreciate you giving us the time to do that homework. The way that I see this, I kind of view it through the lens of the Procurement Act, even though, as we discussed before, you're not subject to that in this case. But under the Procurement Act, when you have a contract that is about to expire, you have a decision to make. And that decision is it in the best interest of the state? The statute says, will it serve the best interest of the state by encouraging effective competition or otherwise promoting economies in state procurement? So you have to make that decision before you renew any contract. Should you decide that it is not in the best interest of the state to renew a contract, then the logical outcome is that you're going to proceed to do a new solicitation. So we can do that anytime a contract expires. That's what we do under the Procurement Act. So again, if you decide not to proceed to renew the interlot agreement through the LOI process, then you'll do an RFP. And I think that's just the decision that's before you now is, do we want to continue down the path that we set for the lottery in September, or do we want to renew the contract?
Okay, so as we move forward, I guess from a procedural standpoint, you know, we already have a motion and we've already approved this process to go, you know, onto an RFP. So as we discuss this, if the commission wanted to just, you know, take a look at this and look back and decide to enter into a negotiation on a letter of intent with Interlot, we would need to reconsider that motion and have that separate discussion. And I think it's important, just as Mr. Harris was just saying, that we were careful, due to the competitive nature of the potential of an RFP, not to discuss in any way, you know, try to, you know, influence the decisions of that board or really put any one of these potential bidders at a disadvantage. And so that's why we've, you know, Don's here. He's very knowledgeable. He's been working really closely with the staff and kind of knows where everything stands. So I think if we have questions during this debate or with this discussion for the lottery staff, I'd like them to be directed through Don. And I guess with that said, I'll open it up to any discussion of where we're at. Does anybody, you know, have any comments on this? Or I know we've discussed this at length. You know, we're familiar with the process of what happened in December. But just in terms of this, you know, on a high level, whether we, you know, stick with the path of the RFP or whether we reconsider and go with an LOI, that's the decisions that we need to make today. So I'd welcome any comment from the commissioners. Commissioner Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I met with Don yesterday and he was very open and cordial. It allowed me to look at everything that they had. And I asked Dawn. So this is where it gets a little confusing to me, and stop me if I cross any boundaries here, okay? But the way I came out of it and the way I understand it is if we stayed with the original motion to go forward with the RFP process, and I mean, I guess they could rescind that LOI, right?
Yeah.
But basically, I believe that what's in that LOI is not going to change. So we've always got that position, that interlock position. If the other companies come in and are not, you know, it's not what we're looking for. It's not a good deal.
May I clarify the answer?
Sure.
So my understanding of the letter of intent is that if the commission were to decide to move forward with the RFP, it would no longer, be in effect.
Well, okay, because it wouldn't be necessary, but they would still go through with the RFP, and I don't think that the specifics in that contract would change as far as is their bid. But I don't know that, but I just think that we can always revert back. Not to the LOI, maybe, but in the RFP process.
Yeah, that's a question for me, Dawn. If that did happen, you know, if you went to the RFP process and you got into it and you realized that, oh boy, this wasn't what we were looking at before, could you, I guess, does this, the change in that, the issue that brought up the December-ish, this reconsideration of the LOI, does that allow us to go? I mean, this is where this gets a little goofy with the procurement. I mean, once we go on RFP, are we down that highway? Can we ever just say, okay, thanks for everybody for showing up. We want to go back and talk to Interlot again. I mean, how would that, the legality of that? I mean, to me, because it seems pretty squishy, because he'd probably have an offer, a legitimate proposal from them during the RFP process from Interlot and the other ones. And I think, would we have to negotiate on that? Doesn't this thing go away? I mean, yes,
Mr. Chair, I don't think it's clear, and so, lawyers might disagree. I think that, were you to go down the path of the RFP, and then decide, well, no, we don't like the response that we got to the RFP, we want to go back to the Interlot offer, I think that would probably invite, litigation and be problematic for the commission. But I don't know.
Chairman Brady, in my opinion, as a lawyer who's done some negotiations, the choice would be Interlot. Interlot, in the course of the RFP process, could essentially produce what they produced, as an offer in the LOI. And then in that case, we would have competition. In this case, we haven't had competition. So, and I'm just gonna make the statement that I intend to make somewhere along the line here anyway, which is that I'm not gonna support any reconsideration motion. I think we made the right decision. In September, we made it unanimously. And I want to recount a little bit of history. In March of 24, we were told we need to go through the RFP process. And although I don't think we took action or unanimously said, go forth and do that to our staff. And then we were informed, well, you have an option to do something else. And in September, we did take action and we said, go forth and do the RFP to our staff. Yeah. So those things promoted transparency and competition. But not doing that now promotes suspicion and not competition. And it, as Representative Falk said, it is really important for the Montana Lottery, because it's in the business of gambling, to have integrity above reproach, because people are way too quick to assume that gambling is corrupt. And I think this entity has served Montana well, and it has maintained a great reputation, and we need to do that by pursuing an RFP. The public does need to have confidence in the integrity of the lottery. That's a very valuable commodity of the lottery, I believe. I'm gonna get off my soapbox pretty quick here, but here's what I'm gonna say. I believe that if we do not go down the RFP process, if we do negotiate with a single provider, the incumbent vendor, we will turn Montana lottery into a backwater fiefdom of a foreign corporation. We won't get other people, other entities to come in here and compete in 7 years. They'll think, well, this vendor's got it, it's wrapped up. That is not the best thing for the long-term health of the lottery or Montana's budget for that matter. So I think we made our decision in September. I think we should charge forward with.
Commissioner Harbaugh, looks like you have your hand raised. I'd like to hear from everybody. So let's go to Commissioner Harbaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly concur with John's comments. I think when Representative Falk read some of the language in the statute in regards to what is best for the state, to me, what is best for the state is not what is to me, the term state doesn't mean the legislature. The state means the people of Montana. And I really believe that the transparency, the accountability, and everything that we owe to the people of Montana is the path that this commission has taken over the course of the last year in regards to this. We have made decisions. They have been noted, but we really haven't moved forward. We keep getting sidetracked with the fact that, well, you know, there's a possible side deal out here, if you will, and that's been frustrating. I think that we set the course of what this commission wanted to proceed with, and to have to keep reiterating that is kind of where my frustration has come from. And I guess for me, you know, here we are a year later from when the discussions first started, and I fully believe that the RFP process is what the intent of this commission was initially, and I guess short of hearing everyone's comment yet today, I have no reason to believe that that's not still our direction. Thank you.
Commissioner Harbaugh. Commissioner Taylor, do you have anything that you'd like to add to the discussion, or?
You're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but no, I really respect everybody's opinion. I did not like Commissioner Metropolis's comment about the foreign company, because he is going to be part of the group that the RFP. He was instrumental in working on the RFP. And if you remember in my very first session, I really wanted to help it. And I don't think we should make that comment. Maybe even supposes he's made a decision, even though the decision is ours. My problem with the RFP, and I've seen it over and over, and I don't know, maybe it's just happened to me, is lowballing. And I think that costs are going to be real hard to determine because of what's the tariff on Chinese parts. So costs are going to be nearly impossible to determine anyway. So I think that the RFP if we decide to go that way, and I don't know, we'll have to talk with the department, I'll have to talk with the Department of Administration, how they put the wording in to protect us, so we don't get bitten down the road with cost overrides. But anyway, I don't know, I'd like to hear what everybody else has to say. Mr. Chairman, what's your opinion?
Thank you. You know, I guess, you know, in terms of trying to stay a little impartial on this, but I guess, you know, I kind of lean towards, and I guess it's looking back to the history of this thing and why we, you know, and I understand Tony's frustration of why we keep revisiting this, but, you know, one of the things, in looking back to March, when we first started talking about this, is why, you know, when Director Phil Charpentier gave the presentation of what, you know, how the RFP was going to go down, how it had to be bid with all new equipment and all new to make everything equal, because the implication there is that if you don't go out to RFP, the incumbent vendor having all of this infrastructure in place, having these relationships, having these processes. I would think about it like I'm in the middle of tax season, and a couple times during my 20 years of going through this, we've switched our accounting software, you know, our tax software, which is very important to what we do. And that process, and I also went for a switch where I went from a Google environment back to a Microsoft environment, and it was a nightmare for 2 years. And so the reason you would put the RFP out to make everybody bid the same thing is because that incumbent is going to be able to have a huge advantage. And it's going to cost the state, just from a practical perspective, a whole lot less. To stick, and especially into this environment where everything's changing. You've got all these bills in the legislature. You've got DraftKings and FanDuel, and you've got, you know, like you said, the gambling environment is all. So I could see the reason why we keep revisiting this, and I could see why the Department of Administration wanted to say, "Hey, you guys, did you really think about this? Like, what the implication of this, you know, Senate Bill 51 or whatever the legislative language was." And so, I mean, from a dollars and cents perspective, I can see why we're here, and I can see why we're still having this discussion, just from a financial perspective and a risk perspective. But at the same time, I completely agree with Falk and Joan about the RFP process really kind of covers our butts in a lot of ways, where it's a fully transparent system. We're going to have all this vetted. Not to say that the RFP process isn't going to get weird, because I guarantee it will. And there's a lot at stake. And one of my initial discussions with staff was around the RFP process that went down in I think it was Illinois, where there was some real gnarly stuff that happened during that whole process. So to think that this RFP process is going to be the, you know, a super clean, you know, process is I don't know. I mean, who knows? We can't see the future. We've got to deal with what's in front of us. But you know, and I could care less about, you know, about what there was a lot of heavy footing going on here, what the DOA wanted to do and all stuff. I mean, what again, it gets back to what Representative Falk said. What's best for the state of Montana? What's going to put, you know, the first part of that mission statement is what's going to put the most money in the state's pocket, basically. And to me, I could see logically, you know, from a conservative standpoint, how that would be to just kind of stay the course with it or what. But at the same time, if we want to go through the RFP and just kind of have that open process and competitive process and let everybody in, you know, I'm okay with that too. And I think that, you know, even if it costs the state more money, you know, does that, because, and as I've been through one of these RFPs before, cost isn't always the most determining factor, right? There's all kinds of stuff. And so does the quality of the equipment that we're going to see in an RFP outweigh what the incumbent vendor has? Does all that stuff goes into that? And does the integrity of the lottery commission have outweigh financial stuff? You know, to me, there's really good arguments on all sides of that. So I don't mean to fence it, but as a chairman, it's kind of my job. And I mean, I guess if somebody wants to make a motion to reconsider, I'd consider, and we could talk about it at that point. But at this point, the commission did make a decision in September. We are going to go forward with that RFP unless we decide to reconsider and discuss it at this point. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
I'd like to just say one other thing briefly. I listened to your kind of toting up the pluses and minuses for each side. And roughly, I don't know if you intended this, but roughly, it sounded kind of like they come up to be about even. But there's one thing that makes going through the RFP much better, I believe. And on your, actually two things, on your integrity question, I think that's the home run right there. We should do this for the integrity of the water. But secondly, if you go through a transparent, competitive process, you are far more likely, we are far more likely to get technology, hardware that's needed for the lottery business for the next 7 to 10 years that's modern. It will be far more likely to anticipate where this technology and where the commercial aspects of this industry are going in the next 7 to 10 years. If we're stuck with the existing vendor, and let me make it clear, I'm not against the existing vendor winning the new contract. I'm just against being stuck with the old hardware, software, thinking, business model, all that stuff. I'd like to see what comes out of a competitive, transparent process. I think that is far more likely to get us to 2032 in good shape.
Right, yeah, and I think that's, again, that's part of what I was saying is like, I actually also have a friend of mine that sells technology systems, and he's always like, when you have the contract, you never want somebody to go out for bid. When you do, but like, sometimes one of the things that he said is like, there's a trade-off between, I don't want to see what's out there, and so I totally get that, but I don't think, and Dawn, maybe you could clarify this for me, but I mean, it's part of what the negotiations with Interlot have a bunch of new equipment, right? I mean, it's not like we're just going to be stuck with the all existing equipment, right? I mean, there's going to be new stuff involved potentially, or is that a fair question without going into divulging too much? But I think it's fair to assume that there would be new replacement equipment involved in the LOI.
Yes, Mr. Chair, they did include replacement equipment in the LOI, but I did want to caution that the starting point to get to the LOI was the unsolicited offer that the lottery received, going back to August or so, not the RFP. So just because we didn't want to disclose any details about what was in the RFP, we didn't start there. So what you would get back from the incumbent might not be the same as what you have in the LOI.
Gotcha. Yeah. Oh, I agree. I just in general that it's not like.
You mean the RFP?
Yep. Well, I mean, the LOI might not be what they proposed in response to the RFP.
Mr. Chairman. As I looked at some of the RFP stuff yesterday, and Don and I talked, so if we stay where we're at and proceed with the RFP, and then depending on how many parties are interested, how many people bid. So then those RFPs go to a committee that will be set up in the future. Is that correct?
Yes, Commissioner Morris, that's correct.
So you go through and you do the scoring and everything, and then you select. Do you rank them? And then do we get to see them? Or are we just going to get to see, well, here is what the committee chose. And then, I mean, once again, the commission doesn't have a whole lot of say in this. It's just, this is what the committee chose. So this is what we want you to accept and vote on. Kind of left in the dark a little bit again. And, will we be able to have updates and ongoing information and look at that scoring before we, because the way it's been going, we just come into a meeting or we get an email on the internet, yay or nay, like scratch off tickets and such. And we don't really have a chance to research much and and create an opinion. So,
So Commissioner Morris, my understanding is that there was a process, I think, Commissioner Metropolis mentioned that, there's been some discussion going back in March, about, this next contract, in June. There were RFIs that were done in the summer. We discussed it in September, discussed it in December. I think where we're coming from, the place that we thought that there was commission input on what the RFP design would be. And so I think that's what we're expecting going forward. Not that it's not welcome, but that, in the interest, if you are wanting to move forward with the RFP and you're wanting to do it soon, we think that we seek your input. If you want to have more, I think, certainly there's a window for that. We need to take our time and go through that with you some more.
yeah, but I'm not talking about what's included in the RFP that we looked at. And I'm talking about once you get those proposals back, and then we start to look at scoring this stuff. The committee that will be set up, I'm sure, with some lottery folks and others. Is that public information? Are we going to get to see it, or is it proprietary?
Mr. Morris, there is some proprietary information, but further, if we're going to do the RFP, I think my recommendation would be to follow the process in the Procurement Act, regardless of whether you're subject to it. And so under the Procurement Act, it would be a black box. You would not be talking about it in public. It would all be happening confidentially, and then end the process. Everyone would see the scores. Everyone would be able to see the presentations that were made. Everybody would be able to see the proposal, subject to any trade secret, being removed from those.
Well, that answers my question. We will be able to see before there is a final decision.
Yeah, and even, one of the things that we talked about back in that March meeting, Janet talked about it, the RFP never really got off the floor, off the ground, but, a commissioner could get inside that black box, right? Or part of that process, right? If there's paperwork that we'd have to fill out, or is that not appropriate? To be involved during that gathering, as part of that group, would it be okay to have a member of the commission on that, inside that group?
Yes, Mr. Chair, it would be okay to have a member of the commission in the evaluation committee. What you wouldn't want to do is have someone who's not on the evaluation committee participating in that. However, as Commissioner Morris and I were just discussing, on the back end, once all of that information has been weighed, evaluated, then you and everyone else would be able to see what was submitted.
Yeah, I remember this the last time. We got a massive spreadsheet with all the data and all the scoring and the rationale behind the scoring, and we received that. And there was a recommendation from that committee, but we ultimately got to weigh and vote on this.
Well, that's what's important. Yep.
And one more thing, Mr. Chair, just to close the loop. And then ultimately, the Representative Ball talked about the commission's authority. So ultimately, the contract will be approved by the commission. So, you do have the final say, regardless of what the scoring is. It comes before you, and you will make the final decision on the contract.
Thank you.
Okay, anything further from Tony or Jana?
Nothing further from me. Thank you, Chairman.
So I guess I think we've heard from the public. I don't know if there's any other comments out there that somebody wants to weigh at this point. That next step would be, I'd entertain a motion to reconsider if someone wanted to make that motion. If not, absent that motion, we would just stick with the September decision before we RFP. Okay. I think that this silence from the commission, makes a decision and we will be, I guess we've already given the direction to move forward with the RFP and I just wanted to thank Dawn for all your work on this and I really appreciated your guidance through this whole process and your information today and thank the staff for their patience through this whole process. I know you guys wanted to get going on this for a long time and we put you guys in a hard bind by making these decisions. I think, again, I look back at it and I don't think that was unwarranted necessarily. It was tough and it was weird, but I think that this is a big decision. It's probably the biggest decision we're going to make as a commission and so I don't think it was the wrong thing to pump the brakes and really take a hard look at this. And I appreciate everybody's comments today and not discussing the details there, not getting into any of that stuff. So I'm happy with where we're at. I'm happy to have a decision moving forward. Guess that's all I have. The next item on the agenda is an opportunity for additional public comment on anything else related to this or anything else related to lottery.
Under other business, I would like, if it's okay with you, Mr. Chairman, make a motion to thank the staff, director, and staff, for persevering in a difficult situation here, supporting us so professionally. Just what's it called? A statement of confidence, I think. So I so move.
Seconded by Commissioner Morris. Any further discussion from the committee? Anybody have anything they want to say out there for the commission?
Just a big thank you from me. We very much appreciate all the staff. I know I do every time I have a question. I've been very impressed. Thanks again.
Yeah. Again, I the same way. I think this is a great group and we're in good hands and I appreciate all the work. So I guess I'll call the question. All those in favor of could you restate is it a vote of confidence or appreciation?
Yeah, a vote of confidence by the Lottery Commission to the staff, including the director.
Including the director, of course. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay. Yeah, is this what so we got, the next thing is the next meeting, we're going to have since we moved this meeting up and we're just kind of didn't know how long this contract thing was going to take. One of the main duties that we have to do every quarter as a commission is approve that financial report. The financial report just wasn't ready and didn't make it to the agenda because we bumped this up early to have a special meeting. So we'd like to schedule a call sometimes. I think maybe have Corey or who's Caitlin get a hold of us and schedule where we can all get on the once you guys have the finances ready, get us all on, we can hop on a quick Zoom call to approve the financials because we'll need to do that for the transfer. Is that?
Yeah.
And then the next commission meeting would be June 19th proposal.
For me.
The 19th would be a conflict for me. I would be unavailable.
Anything else or? Yeah, I'd be around. Tony, how are you out that whole week or?
I am. I'm committed that entire week.
Okay. You want to stick with it or do you want to try to move it to? Because yeah, I've got On the 26th, I'm tied up. I could,
The week.
I go the week of the 9th, I could do that on like the 12th. Does that bump it up? Does that mess with you guys a little bit on the timing of getting financials done and stuff? We go early.
I don't think so.
12th work for you, John?
Yeah.
I'm good to 12th too, so I'd like to have the group here if we could. So Commissioner Taylor, Jana, does that work for you? Thumbs up, 12th?
Okay, yes, I will, I'll be one way or the other, I'll be there the 12th.
Okay, and we could move it back to 10 if you're driving down.
No, that sounds good. Oh, yes, I'll let you know. The Zoom 9 o'clock is perfect, but if I'm driving 10, I'll let you know.
Okay. Perfect. And so we'll be, the staff will be in touch here in the coming weeks. To just coordinate that call. That's gonna be where we have a quorum on that call. Any other business?
Will that be in March, just later in March?
Yes. Yes. I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you much.